Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. You know, when I was little, when it comes to television programs, my experience began with PBS and Disney Channel. However, my sister and I didn't start watching Nickelodeon until halfway through 2000, thanks to a special play date we had with our former next-door neighbor, Tabitha. And in my opinion, Nickelodeon had a lot of great cartoon shows during the time, like Cat Dog, As Told by Ginger, Hey Arnold, Rocket Power, Pinky and the Brain, and the Wild Thornberrys. Fairly Odd Parents, My Life's a Teenage Robot, Jimmy Neutron, SpongeBob, and Chalk Zone came out afterwards, by the way. Anyway, today, we're going to talk about one of the first Nicktoon shows that I've ever known about, Rugrats. Created by Arlene Klasky for Nickelodeon, the show focuses on a group of babies and their day-to-day lives, usually involving life experiences that become much greater adventures in the imaginations of the young characters. And in my opinion, this show was a pretty fun series, and I think Tommy and his gang are a lot more tolerable than these babies. By the way, the series premiered on August 11th, 1991 as the second Nicktoon after Doug and before the Ren and Stimpy show. It ran until August 1st, 2004 for a total of 172 episodes over 9 seasons. Plus, Rugrats managed to gain a sequel show called All Grown Up and a spin-off series called Rugrats Preschool Days, as well as 2 animated theatrical films and a crossover with the Wild Thornberrys. And, thanks to a request by Marisol Barobia on YouTube, I'm going to look at the Rugrats' first adventure on the big screen. Released on November 20th, 1998, the movie is The Rugrats Movie. So, let's get started. Tommy Pickles faces a huge responsibility when his new baby brother Dylan is born. As with all newborns, Dill becomes a bane to Tommy and the rest of his gang. So, they decide to return Dill to the hospital by using a Reptar wagon that Tommy's dad has been working on for a toy design contest. But along the way, they get lost in a forest and get in some even more trouble with a band of circus monkeys. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, when I first saw this film in theaters with my mother, I enjoyed it. And after getting the movie on home media, my sister and I watched it non-stop. And I think it influenced us to watch the show on Nickelodeon. However, nowadays, I still enjoy the movie, but not as much as I used to, though. But let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, believe it or not, the events of this movie takes place before the 6th season of the show. Plans for a Rugrats film adaptation, along with Ren and Stimpy and Doug, began when Nickelodeon made a contract to 20th Century Fox to produce films between 1993 and 1995. However, the contract expired with no films in production. Around the same year, when the contract expired, development of the film restarted with Paramount since Nick's parent company, Viacom, purchased the studio in 1994. The film became the first animated film from Nickelodeon Movies and the first based on a Nicktoon. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, I gotta say, it's absolutely great. And why? Well, it's because it stays true to the style of the show, though a little bit high definition in comparison. And I like the imaginary Indiana Jones setting at the beginning and at the film's ending, where the babies are trying to get an ice cream sundae from the refrigerator. As for the story, well, it's okay. Yes, the baby's journey through the woods kind of feels reminiscent to The Wizard of Oz, and there are a few things that are kind of immature, a little gross at times, but keep in mind, I was 8 years old when I saw this movie in theaters, so I guess it's pretty tolerable, mostly to children. Plus, the movie does improve on the relationship with brothers. Now let's talk about the movie's soundtrack, and in my honest opinion, the songs in this movie nowadays are sort of a mixed bag for me. First, there's A Baby's a Gift from a Bob, which is a duet song sung by Angelica and Susie Carmichael, voiced by Cree Summer. And in my opinion, this song is okay when it's only Susie singing it in the beginning, but it kind of gets ruined when Angelica bursts in. Then there's This World Is Something New to Me, which is sung by a group of nursery babies at the hospital, and to me, this song does a good job explaining a newborn baby's curiosity about the world around them. And while it is a good song, the ending nowadays ruins it for me when they make a rainbow with their urine. There's also the Dillaby song, which to me is a sweet lullaby sung by Dee Dee and Stu, and it later gets a reprise sung by Tommy. However, my favorite song in the movie is Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Yum, which is a baby's version of a Treasure Island Pirates song. There's also the Witch Doctor song sung by Devo when Tommy and the gang first meet the band of circus monkeys, and One Way or Another sung by Angelica. And now, let's move on to the characters and the voice actors who brought it to life. The leader of the Rugrats, Tommy Pickles, is voiced by Elizabeth G. Daly, whom I remember as Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls, Rudy Tabooty from Chalk Zone, and Young Mumble from Happy Feet. Tommy is a brave baby with a strong sense of justice, always eager for an adventure, and he's unafraid to stand up for what is right. Also, I think Tommy is very imaginative. However, in this movie, Tommy has a big responsibility due to him having a new baby brother. And while he tries his best to look out for Dill, in my personal opinion, the scene where Tommy yells at Dill and almost pouring banana baby food was very harsh of him. Next we have Tommy's newborn baby brother, Dill, voiced by Tara Strong, best known as Princess Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Princess Melody from The Little Mermaid 2, and many, many more. Anyway, while Tara Strong is my favorite voice actress, I have mixed feelings for Dill, due to him being a very loud crier and for being a spoiled, naughty brat. And he has done a few gross things throughout the movie. But on the positive side, Dill is pretty smart when he operates the Reptar wagon a few times. And I like when he, along with Tommy, reconciled during a thunderstorm. Next is Tommy's best friend, Chuckie Finster, voiced by the late Christine Cavanaugh, who you may remember as Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. Chuckie serves as the narrator for the movie. Unlike Tommy, Chuckie is a tad clumsy and timid, and he rarely expresses any desire to go on one of the baby's adventures. Also, I kind of feel bad for Chuckie due to a lot of bad luck happening to him throughout this movie. For example, there's the part when Dill throws up on him, when he falls overboard into the river, only to have a fish up his pants, when his glasses break, and when a monkey drops him. And throughout all those parts, Tommy isn't there when Chuckie needs him. Next we come to the twins, Phil and Lil DeVille, both voiced by Cat Susie. They live next door to Tommy, and they share many similarities, including a love of dirt, eating bugs, and playing with earthworms, and they kind of argue with one another frequently, calling each other by their full name whenever they do so. Anyway, in my opinion, in this movie, Phil and Lil aren't as likable as they are in the show, due to them planning to use the Reptar wagon to take Dill back to the hospital, and later when they let the monkeys kidnap Dill. And they also influenced Tommy to fight with Dill earlier over a teddy bear. This is Tommy's cousin, Angelica, voiced by Cheryl Chase. Now, I don't really like Angelica too much, due to her threatening the babies physically and verbally, as well as lying to them for her own amusement. And in this movie, she tells Tommy that as soon as the new sibling is born, his parents will forget that he exists, which of course will never happen. And later, after baby Dill takes her Cynthia doll, she, along with Spike, give chase after them, detective-styled. Next is the Pickles family dog, Spike. Spike is claimed as Tommy's best animal friend, and he's very protective of the babies, as he sees them as his own puppies. Plus, while Spike doesn't really have a big role in the movie, aside from joining Angelica to find Tommy and the gang in the woods, I like the scene where Spike and Tommy rescue Chuckie from the monkeys, and when he fights a ferocious wolf who's been hunting down the kids ever since they arrived in the woods. We also have Tommy and Dill's dad, Stu, voiced by Jack Riley, who sadly passed away from pneumonia on August 19, 2016. I find Stu to be a very easygoing dad and an absent-minded but brilliant toy inventor. And I like that he wants to be a good provider for his family. In this movie, Stu has been working on a Reptar wagon for a toy design contest in Japan in hopes of winning $500. Plus, there are times when he, along with his brother Drew, bicker over petty problems. However, I think it was very brilliant that Stu uses his pterodactyl aircraft to look for the kids from the sky. Also, I like the scene where Stu shares a very touching conversation with Tommy about being a big brother, and when he gives him a special locket with a picture of Tommy and Dill taped together and a watch inside. These are the Forest Rangers, Frank and Margaret, voiced by David Spade and Whoopi Goldberg. These guys don't appear too much in the movie, but after the adults go to their ranger station for help, Margaret volunteers to assist them in finding the kids, while Frank goes into hysteria due to him seeing the Reptar wagon believing it to be a dragon. Finally, we come to the Banana Brothers circus monkeys. They get stranded in the woods after they hijack their train and crash. To me, these monkeys are pretty silly, aggressive, playful, and mischievous. Like when they play with Tommy and the gang, and when they kidnap Dill. Also, they're terrified of wolves. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, the Rugrats movie is good, but not spectacular. Yeah, it does have some great animation, due to it being reminiscent to the TV show. It has great voice acting, and it does have a heartwarming plot involving a brotherlyhood relationship. However, the soundtrack is still a mixed bag to me these days, and there are a few things that are a tad immature, but I'm glad that it's not 100% crude. Also, while most of the main characters are good, like Tommy, Chuckie, and a few others, a couple other characters like Phil and Lil aren't as good as they are in the show. And while Tommy's new brother Dill is kind of naughty throughout most of the movie, at least he gets better as the film progresses, even in later seasons and movies. But if you folks have kids, then I'm sure they'll enjoy it much more than you. And if some of you out there are still fans of Rugrats, then I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as your children do. I give this film a 79% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time as we return to a video game that I thought was destroyed until last year. Mustang Power.